You know that feeling, right? You're trying to find some solid information, maybe some research, and bam, paywall. Or it's just buried in this super dense academic journal.
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, it really is. And it makes you wonder, I mean, it got us wondering for this deep dive, why does this system still dominate when, honestly, it often feels like it's just failing everyone?
It really does feel that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, our sources confirm that, it's not just a feeling, it's a pretty common experience.
Right.
And the core argument we're going to unpack today, it's kind of striking. It's that the current academic publishing model isn't really broken by accident.
Oh.
No. The sources suggest it's actually designed for a very specific purpose.
Okay, interesting. Let's explore that purpose then, because this frustration, it's part of what our sources call the academic publishing paradox.
Exactly.
So today we're going to really dig into that, understand the logic behind it, why it's set up this way, and this is the really cool part, we'll look at a powerful alternative.
Yeah, one that's already out there.
Totally. Showing that, valuable knowledge doesn't need these traditional gates. We want to show you what happens when, as the source puts it, the work has already been done.
And what's needed now is just recognition.
Yeah.
And maybe redistribution.
Precisely. So let's start with that frustration. James Hardy, he laid it out really well on LinkedIn. This whole system, writers don't get paid, reviewers don't get paid, the research is locked up.
And creators often lose copyright.
Exactly. It seems completely absurd on the surface, doesn't it? Why would anyone agree to that?
Well, that's the paradox, right? Our sources say what looks like a flaw, it's actually a feature. It's built in.
A feature? How so?
They describe the whole journal system as, get this, an extractive economy dressed up in scholarly drag.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. The main point is this system isn't really set up to reward new knowledge creation as much as it is to exploit it.
Exploit it.
Yeah. I mean, it profits by restricting access, restricting public understanding, not by spreading it. It serves what they call prestige economies.
Not people or communities.
Exactly. Not the people who could actually use the knowledge.
So if it's designed that way, who benefits? Who are the winners in this setup, according to the sources?
Well, they're pretty clear. It tends to be those already sort of at the top.
Like?
Tenured faculty in elite institutions, journal editors who have that reputational capital to trade, and, of course, the big publishing conglomerates collecting rent.
Right, the publishers.
Yeah, and everyone else, students, independent scholars, practitioners, the public. We're positioned as labor or audience is how they put it, but never owner.
Never owner of the knowledge. And looking back historically, this isn't exactly new, is it?
Not at all. The sources point out that the earliest journals, they were explicitly set up to gatekeep knowledge. Yeah, within specific contexts, imperial classed and often explicitly racialized contexts. Some were even funded directly by colonial conquest.
Seriously?
Yeah. The underlying logic, the sources argue, it hasn't fundamentally changed. Maybe just the branding.
Okay, wow. So if that's the foundation, this gatekeeping, it really forces a bigger question, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Beyond history, what is the knowledge for? Like, right now. And our sources bring in this really interesting framework from Jason Hickel and Dylan Sullivan. It's a 2024 article.
Oh, yeah, the needs-based analysis one?
Exactly. Applied to economics, challenging that idea of just endless growth.
Right, perpetual expansion for its own sake. And it applies so well to knowledge systems, too.
How so?
Well, think about it. Do we really need infinite journals? Or just, countless articles rehashing the same thing?
Just to tick boxes for tenure?
Or REF, the Research Excellence Framework in the UK, or just chasing citation metrics. That kind of endless output isn't necessarily progress, is it?
No, it's just more, that's a powerful reframing quantity versus quality, or maybe purpose.
Exactly.
So if more isn't always better, what do we actually need from our knowledge systems? What do the sources suggest?
What's needed, they argue, is things like meaning, sufficiency. We need repositories of knowledge that prioritize clarity, community, and care.
Okay.
Knowledge that's produced by and for the people it's actually about, the people it impacts.
Right. Makes sense.
And there's this great line, 1,000 unread articles in a paywall journal do less for humanity than a single accessible piece that changes how a community understands itself.
That hits hard. So the crisis isn't really about output.
It's a crisis of purpose. That's how they frame it.
Okay. Which brings us perfectly to this alternative the sources highlight. The AutSide.
Yes.
And the scale here is pretty amazing. Nearly 1,400 articles and audio summaries published, over 300 just on capitalism. And get this, zero institutional funding.
It's really quite something. It stands as like living proof that you don't need the official stamp of a traditional journal for knowledge to be rigorous or transformative or just vital.
So what does it need?
Just commitment, clarity of purpose, and an audience willing to walk alongside. It's knowledge created and shared completely outside those old gates.
And accessibility is central, right? It's not behind a paywall.
Nope, out in the open. Freely accessible, reader-supported, and really grounded in lived experience.
Yeah.
The source says no one is denied access. Because basic things like, survival, meaning, connection, they shouldn't depend on having a subscription or fitting into some institutional mold.
Absolutely. And the range of topics is huge.
It really is. Autism, capitalism, climate collapse, settler violence, language, labor, queerness, gender, education.
But not in silos.
No, that's key. They're treated as interconnected forces shaping our lives. And each piece, you can almost read it as a response to those unmet human needs we were talking about from that Hickel framework.
Okay, let's make this concrete. Give us some examples from the outside. How does this praxis, shaped in real time, as the source calls it, actually look?
Sure. Well, take the piece, When is Genocide Not Genocide?
Okay.
It looks at how AI search engines are starting to define what counts as a credible atrocity. And it connects things like the Highland clearances, Gaza, Donbass, not as separate events, but as recurring operations of settler logic.
Wow, that's a heavy-hitting connection.
Definitely. Or there's Capitalism 101, Beyond the Myths into the Machinery.
Capitalism 101 sounds useful.
It really is. It just breaks down that myth that capitalism is somehow natural, reframes it as extraction, explains things like rent, surplus value, colonialism.
Just accessible terms.
Yeah, it's so accessible that it's apparently used by mutual aid groups, high school teachers, new organizers.
That's direct impact right there.
Exactly. It shows how they tackle these huge complex issues, but make them immediately relevant, practical, for audiences that, frankly, traditional journals often ignore.
They're not just theoretical exercises.
Not at all. They're tools for understanding and action.
Okay, what else?
Well, there's nowhere left to run. That piece connects climate collapse and defunded public transport to what that means specifically for autistic people. It makes the case that climate justice must be disability justice.
Another powerful intersection.
Yeah, sure. And then the real road to serfdom. It takes Friedrich Hayek's famous idea.
The classical liberal economist.
Yeah, and flips it. Argues that today's economic system, dominated by monopoly capital, is the serfdom he warned about, not socialism.
Huh. That's provocative.
It is. And maybe just two more quick ones.
Go for it.
Ableism as a colonial condition. This reframes internalized ableism, feeling like you're failing if you don't fit neurotypical norms. It reframes that not as personal failure, but as epistemic violence. Like the system itself overwrites neurodivergent ways of knowing.
Epistemic violence. Okay.
And finally, the capitalist dictionary, decoding RFK Jr.'s autism rhetoric. This one analyzes political language. Very. To show how eugenic logics, these dangerous ideas about improving the population, can be hidden inside language about freedom, health, parental rights.
Wow. So they're really decoding current events, too.
Absolutely. And the common thread, the source argues, is that these aren't just articles, that they're described as lifelines.
Lifelines.
Yeah. They come from lived necessity, from a refusal to remain gaslit. They give people language for what you've lived.
That's incredibly powerful. It really shows what decentralized, needs-based knowledge can actually do.
Exactly.
And this brings us back to the paradox, right? If alternatives like the outside are so effective, so impactful, why is the old academic journal model still hold so much sway? Culturally, I mean.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the answer the sources point to is it's less about the infrastructure, the actual journals themselves, and more about the culture surrounding them.
Culture.
Meaning prestige still often gets mistaken for actual rigor. Legitimacy is still too often measured by how close you are to an institution.
Right. That university affiliation, that journal title.
Exactly. There's still this belief floating around that knowledge only becomes real or trustworthy once it's gone through that traditional peer review, been formatted just so, filled with jargon.
But our sources are saying that's basically a mirage.
Pretty much.
We don't need to reform journals. We need to decenter them, move them from the middle of everything.
Right. And people are doing that. Look at the author of our main source, Jaime Hoerricks. Their own background shows this.
How so?
Well, years before the AutSide, they ran a site called Forensic Photoshop. Completely different field, right?
Forensic imaging, yeah.
And on that site, they published detailed public critiques of forensic imaging practices, like how specific software was being used with CCTV evidence in court cases.
Okay, so practical application.
Hugely practical. It was useful, accessible, trustworthy. It actually informed people working in the field, challenged bad practices, helped maintain public trust, and zero paywalls.
Interesting. And how does that compare to their, official academic work?
Well, that's the contrast. They also published conventional academic papers in forensic science, peer-reviewed stuff.
Right.
Things on facial comparison techniques, the risks of using unvalidated tech in court, issues around statistical literacy, really important topics, especially for things like wrongful convictions.
Sounds crucial.
It was well-researched, peer-reviewed, but barely circulated.
Why?
Locked behind paywalls, stuck in those professional silos, written in language meant for other specialists, not, lawyers or judges or the public.
So the impact was limited by inaccessibility.
Completely. The source says the impact was not determined by their insight, but by their inaccessibility.
Oh, wow. But what about blog posts or other writing they did?
Well, that's the kicker.
Well.
The blog posts they wrote alongside the academic papers, those were read, cited, acted upon.
Why the difference?
Because they were open access, obviously, but also accessible in every other way. Contextual, practical, timely, clear. They were written for intervention.
Got it. And you can see that same spirit driving the AutSide.
Totally. It's about transparency over prestige, rigor over ritual.
So how does review work there, if not traditional peer review?
Well, the content is reviewed constantly, just differently, by readers, by other experts in the comments, or through feedback by the people directly affected by the topics.
A more distributed form of validation.
Exactly. And it gets cited not only in journals, it's cited in classrooms, in legal arguments, apparently in WhatsApp groups, community zines.
It travels.
It travels much further because it was never meant to be locked up in the first place.
So the takeaway isn't we need better journals or another prestige outlet.
No. The argument is what we really need are platforms of trust. We need peer-to-peer validation. We need public distribution that's based on solidarity, not profit.
Publishing that does something, not just sits there.
Publishing that acts, exactly.
Yeah.
Writing that meets people where they are and helps them get somewhere else. Somewhere freer, safer, more informed, more connected.
Which leads to that powerful conclusion from the source.
Yeah. We don't need journals. We need each other.
Okay, so wrapping this up, that central theme comes through so clearly. We already did the work.
Yeah, and the AutSide isn't presented as, anti-academia. It's more like this is what research can look like when it's freed from that institutional capture.
When it answers to people, not platforms.
Right. It's an infrastructure of care, clarity, and refusal. A counter-canon, they call it. Not defined by footnotes, but by frequency, how often and how effectively it's used by communities.
And that ties back to Jason Hickel's point, doesn't it? The question isn't really how much more knowledge we need to produce. It's how we distribute and honor what's already here. The focus shifts.
To recognition and redistribution.
Through action, access, and solidarity.
So the final thought for you, the listener. What does all this mean for how you look for knowledge? How do you decide what's legitimate, what counts?
Yeah.
Are you ready to recognize the knowledge that's already been built, maybe outside those traditional gates? And maybe ask yourself, when you choose what information to engage with, what are you prioritizing? Is it the institutional prestige, the gatekeeping, or are you looking for meaning, for genuine impact, for connection with communities? It's a really important question to sit with.